West Wing looked like the mouth of hell. Flames licked the walls, crawling like living fingers across old paintings and cracked tiles. Smoke rolled in thick waves, choking the corridor until every breath felt like swallowing ash. The emergency alarms screamed, but the sound felt distant, like the mansion itself was drowning. Malik's arms were tight around Lena, shielding her as they crouched behind a half-fallen pillar. Samuel stood a few steps away, sweat dripping down his face, eyes red from smoke. The silhouette at the end of the hall remained still, tall, slow, watching through the fire like it owned the flames. And then that voice came again, soft, familiar, cruelly calm. "Lena, my child, don't be afraid." Lena's scream died in her throat. Her eyes widened so much it hurt. Her knees trembled. Malik leaned forward, staring hard through the smoke. "Who are you?" he shouted, his voice torn by coughing. "Show your face." The figure didn't step forward. It didn't rush. It didn't panic. It just spoke again, closer somehow, though it hadn't moved. "You have always been stubborn, Malik Anderson." Malik's breath hitched. That tone, it wasn't only threatening, it was personal. Samuel swallowed hard. "Sir, don't go closer. This is a trap." The corridor shook with a low groan. A chunk of ceiling fell somewhere behind them, sparks shooting across the tiles. Malik's eyes flicked left and right, calculating. He grabbed Lena's wrist. "We're leaving this wing. Now." Lena clutched his sleeve, but the person... They called me their child. Samuel's face tightened. "We don't have time for questions inside a fire." Malik pulled them back in a half-run, half-stumble away from the flames. The three of them turned the corner into a safer corridor where the smoke was thinner and the lights flickered. The moment they were out of the direct heat, Malik snapped into command mode. "Samuel," he said sharply, "get every staff member out of this building. Make sure nobody is missing." Samuel nodded and coughed. "Yes, sir." Malik turned to the nearest guard. "Lock down all exits except the south gate. Nobody leaves without my authorization." The guard hesitated. "Sir, people are scared." "Do it," Malik barked. "Riverway is inside these walls." The guard ran. Lena stood frozen, staring at the hallway behind them as if she expected the silhouette to appear again. Malik pulled her closer. "Lena, look at me." She forced her eyes to his. "We're done hiding," he said. "I'm calling in the squad." Lena blinked rapidly. "Police." "Not regular police," Malik replied, voice low. "The kind that don't leak to tabloids, the kind that understand when a billionaire says, 'This is an internal threat.'" Samuel rushed back, breathing hard. "Sir, staff are moving. But the West Wing fire, it's controlled by sprinklers now, still spreading." Malik's jaw clenched. "It's not just fire, it's a message." "He said the second fire," Lena whispered. Malik's eyes darkened. "He's reenacting the past to break me." Then he did something Lena didn't expect. He pulled out his phone and dialed. "One ring, two," a calm voice answered. "Anderson?" Malik spoke quickly, controlled. "Oh, dumb, it's Malik. I need the squad, now. Quiet entry, no sirens. I've got an intruder inside my mansion using hidden shafts. He's armed, organized, and he started a fire." A pause. Then the voice said, "Location, the estate. You know the drill. Once we enter, nobody walks out until we finish sweeping." Malik looked down at Lena, then at Samuel. "Yes," he said, "fish him out." Lena's stomach flipped. Malik ended the call and turned to Samuel. "You said you know him, the engineer." Samuel's eyes shifted like he was choosing between honesty and fear. "Yes," Samuel said. "He used to operate around the Riverway settlement. He recruited boys, used women as bait, paid people to keep quiet. The first time I heard the name Riverway, it was from him. He said it was a brand, like fear could be branded." Lena's arms prickled. "So he's not a myth?" Samuel shook his head. "No, he's real." Malik inhaled deeply. "And Clarissa?" Lena's chest tightened. Clarissa was talking to him. The phone log proved it. Malik nodded once, grim. "I need the full story, all of it." Samuel hesitated, then said the truth like it was poison in his mouth. "Clarissa didn't start this alone, sir. She was recruited." Lena stared. "Recruited for what?" Samuel looked at her. "To marry Malik." Lena's throat went dry. Malik's face hardened. "Continue." Samuel swallowed. "Clarissa wanted power. She wanted status. She wanted the city to fear her name the way people fear yours. Riverway fed that hunger. He told her marriage would make her untouchable. Malik's eyes narrowed. But why marry me specifically? Why not kidnap me? Why not steal from the company directly? Samuel's voice dropped. Because Riverway doesn't steal like a thief. He steals like a lawyer. Lena frowned. Samuel explained, if Clarissa became your legal wife, she'd have access to private documents, company codes, estate ownership transfers, even emergency power of attorney. If you were incapacitated. Malik's jaw tightened. Incapacitated? How? Samuel didn't answer immediately. Lena whispered poison. Samuel glanced at her like she'd said exactly what he didn't want to hear. Yes. Malik's breathing slowed, dangerously calm. So they were going to poison me. He said it more as a statement than a question. Samuel nodded. Not immediately. Slowly. The kind that looks like stress, insomnia, hypertension, something that weakens you. Then when you're weak enough, they introduce a doctor. Lena's legs felt light. And then what? Samuel's eyes turned hard. Then you sign what you don't understand. Quiet, legal, clean. Malik clenched his fist. So that's the plan. The next question hit Lena's heart like a hammer. And me? She asked softly. How was I connected? Why did Riverway care that I came into this house? Samuel's expression shifted. Guilt, then fear. Malik turned to him sharply. Answer her. Samuel licked his lips. Because Lena wasn't supposed to work here. Lena's eyes widened. What do you mean? Samuel exhaled. Riverway planted staff into this house long before you arrived. People you think are ordinary workers. Lena's chest tightened. Like who? Samuel shook his head quickly. I don't know all of them, but I know the recruitment method. He uses agencies. Malik's eyes flashed. The domestic agency in the East District. Samuel nodded. That agency is one of his pipelines. Lena whispered, but I didn't apply through there. Malik looked at her. How did you get the job? Lena's voice shook. A woman, Auntie Naka. She came to my church after service, said she knew a good house in the hills, said the pay would help my mother's treatment. Samuel's face tightened. Exactly. Lena stared. You mean she was connected to Riverway? Samuel said quietly, most likely. Malik's eyes narrowed. So Riverway didn't bring her in. Why does he keep calling her the piece I didn't plan for? Samuel swallowed. Because you weren't recruited by his pipeline. You came through a side door. Lena felt dizzy. Malik's voice sharpened, meaning she's not one of his controlled staff. Samuel nodded. Yes, that's why you're dangerous to him. Lena blinked. Dangerous because I'm not part of the plan? Samuel looked at her with tired eyes. Because you notice things. You speak up. You stopped Clarissa's hand, and that single moment exposed a chain he spent months building. A distant sound reached them. Vehicles, multiple, stopping quietly outside the compound. Malik's phone buzzed with a message, squad on site. Malik stood tall, face turning to stone. Good. He turned to Lena. From now on, stay with me. Always. Lena nodded, lips trembling. Samuel looked toward the ceiling vents, as if expecting them to whisper again. Sir, Riverway won't surrender easily. Malik's eyes were cold now. He will. A soft click came from the corridor speakers. Not an alarm this time. A calm, deliberate interference. Then Riverway's voice filled the hallway, smooth like oil, laughing quietly. You called friends, Malik. Malik didn't flinch. He raised his head. Come out, Riverway chuckled. Soon, but first, let me congratulate you. Silence held its breath. For finally understanding, Riverway said softly, that this mansion was never your home. Lena's heart pounded. Samuel's fists clenched. Malik's voice dropped into a dangerous calm. Tonight, he said, we pull you out of my walls. Riverway laughed once, short and amused. Then let's see who truly owns the foundation of this house. And in that moment, as boots thundered quietly into the compound and the mansion lights flickered like a dying heartbeat, Lena understood something terrifying. Riverway wasn't only hiding, he was prepared. And the real war was about to begin. The compound gates didn't clang open like a movie scene. They slid quietly, efficiently, like men who had done this work too many times to waste drama. From the upstairs balcony windows, some staff watched with trembling curiosity as black SUVs rolled into the driveway. No sirens, no flashing lights, only hard faces, black uniforms, and the heavy confidence of people trained to enter danger and not leave until it was finished. Malik stood at the base of the staircase as the squad leader stepped in. Odom, mid-40s, dark-skinned, tall and solid, face lined with discipline. His eyes were sharp, scanning the mansion's angles like a hunter reading terrain. He nodded once at Malik. "You said he's inside your walls." Malik's jaw tightened. "Yes, hidden shafts, vents, maintenance tunnels. He's been using them for months." Odom's gaze flicked to Lena, small, trembling in her light blue uniform, then to Samuel, who looked like he'd fought smoke and survived. "And the girl?" Malik stepped half in front of Lena instinctively. He wants her removed. He called her the piece he didn't plan for. Odom nodded slowly. "Then she's a leverage point. We treat her like a VIP." He motioned with 2 fingers. 2 squad men moved immediately. One posted at the study corridor, one at the main stairs, both with earpieces and steady hands. Lena swallowed hard. Odom looked back to Malik. "We can't risk this becoming a public scene." "It won't," Odom's lips barely moved. "But I need full access, no staff walking freely, no doors left unaccounted for." Malik nodded, done. Odom looked around once more. Blueprints. Malik led him toward the study. Lena followed closely behind, Samuel at her other side. The hallway felt colder now, not because the air changed, but because the mansion finally had predators inside it, and the walls knew. Inside the study, the lamp still burned. The blueprints were spread open like an exposed secret. Odom leaned over them and whistled softly under his breath. "Classic," he murmured. "Old rich man house, hidden shafts, cross passages, false panels. Whoever built this wanted escape routes." Malik's eyes narrowed. The original owner was listed as Riverway Holdings Estates Limited. Odom's brows rose slightly. So he built the nest. Lena's stomach turned. Odom traced a finger along a thin line on the blueprint. "This route here," he pointed, "connects to the west wing, laundry, staff corridor, and this space behind the shelves." Lena's throat tightened, the misaligned panel. Odom looked up at her. "You heard him there?" Lena nodded, her voice shaking. "He spoke through the wall from behind the bookshelf." Odom gestured. "Show me." Lena hesitated, her legs feeling weak. Malik squeezed her shoulder gently. "You're safe." Odom moved toward the shelf with calm steps, like he expected it to bite. One squadman pulled out a small device and ran it along the edges. "Thermal," the squadman muttered, checking for heat patterns, movement. A beep, another beep. Then the squadman's face tightened. "Heat signature. Recently, not now, but within the last 10 minutes. Lena's skin crawled. Malik's eyes hardened. "He was here just before I returned." Odom nodded once. "He's roaming, listening, testing response time." Samuel swallowed. "He likes controlling the fear." Odom glanced at Samuel. "You said you know him." Samuel's jaw tensed. "I know his methods. I know his old name." "The engineer!" Odom's eyes sharpened. "Full name." Samuel hesitated, then spoke. "Elias Boone." The room went still. Malik looked at him sharply. "You've never said that before." Samuel's expression tightened. "Because saying his name makes him real, and when he becomes real, people start dying." Odom didn't flinch. "We'll verify. But for now, we hunt Riverway, alive if possible, dead if necessary." Lena's breath caught. Malik's voice was cold. "Alive, I want answers." Odom nodded. "Then we set a net." He turned to his men. 2 teams, Team A, West Wing, utilities, ceiling crawl. Team B, staff corridor shafts, laundry vent routes, seal exits, no one leaves. If you spot him, do not chase into unknown shafts alone. Contain and flush. "Yes, sir," the men responded in unison. Odom turned to Malik. "We need bait." Malik's eyes narrowed. "No." Odom's gaze flicked to Lena, then away. "He wants her. That's why he keeps reaching for her." Malik's voice snapped. "She is not bait." Odom raised a hand calmly. "Then you're the bait. He wants control of you too, the company, the estate. He's using her to destabilize you." Malik stared, breathing slow. "How do we flush him without risking her?" Odom looked at Lena, really looked at her, not cruelly, but measuring her strength. "You," Odom said gently, "do you remember anything about Riverway? The name, the symbol, the loan poster you mentioned earlier? Lena flinched. I saw Riverway microfinance in my village years ago. My family took a loan. My mother never liked talking about it. Odom nodded. Good. He's connected to your roots. That means his leverage isn't only here. Lena swallowed. He also said something about a fire and my mother's hospital bill. Malik's expression darkened. Odom's voice hardened. He's building a psychological cage around you. That's how he controls people, confuse them, make them doubt their own memories. Samuel's eyes lowered. He did that to boys in my area. If you resisted, he'd make you think your family would pay. Odom turned to Malik. Here's the play. We create movement where he expects. He's been listening through vents and intercoms. He hears your plans. He watches patterns. Malik nodded slowly. Odom continued. We feed him a false plan, something he can't resist. Lena whispered, like what? Odom pointed at the blueprint. West Wing utility chamber. That room. It's likely his nest, generator room, old, sealed, private. Perfect for hiding supplies, phones, masks, records. Malik's jaw tightened. We found a hollow panel near that wall earlier. Odom nodded. Exactly, so we make him think you're going there with the girl, alone. We'll stage it. Malik's eyes flashed. I said she's not bait. Odom's voice was calm but firm. She won't be exposed. She will be moved visibly with full protection, but the message that leaks through the house will suggest she's vulnerable. Riverway will bite. Malik looked at Lena, conflicted, protective, furious. Lena's heart hammered, but she surprised herself. I can do it, she whispered. Malik snapped his head toward her. No. Lena stepped forward, tears in her eyes, but her voice steady. Sir, he won't stop until he feels he has won. If we keep hiding, he controls the pace. He starts fires. He whispers. He breaks people one by one. Samuel nodded slowly. She's right, Riverway feeds on delay. Malik's face tightened, pain flickering behind his eyes. Odom spoke carefully. We do it smart, 2 layers of protection. She never walks alone. And when he reveals himself even for a second, we lock him down. Malik took a long breath through his nose. Then he nodded once. Fine, he said quietly. But if anything happens to her... It won't, Odom cut in. Because you're not dealing with mansion guards now. You're dealing with a squad. The walkie-talkie crackled from a squadman outside. Boss, Team A reporting. West Wing utility door discovered. Fresh tool marks. Someone has been opening it recently. Malik's eyes hardened. That's him. Odom nodded. We move. He turned to his men. Prepare the flush. Smoke canisters in shafts, non-lethal. Seal all corridor exits. Set cameras at junction points. We want him funneled. Malik's phone vibrated again. Unknown number. Malik's eyes narrowed, and he put it on speaker without answering. Distorted voice slid out like poison. You brought new men, Malik. Odom's eyes snapped to the phone. His men froze, listening. Malik's voice was low. Come out, Riverway. A chuckle. You still talk like you own this house. Odom leaned slightly toward Malik. Keep him talking. Trace call. A squadman typed quickly on a handheld device. Riverway continued, voice smooth. I can smell fear on your walls, and I can smell her. Lena's skin crawled. Malik's knuckles whitened around the phone. If you touch her... I won't touch her yet, Riverway replied softly. I'm not done making you remember. Odom's eyes narrowed. The squadman whispered urgently, signal pinging. It's not external. It's bouncing off internal repeaters. He's using your house intercom network. Odom muttered. He's inside the system. Riverway's voice grew quieter, closer somehow. Come to the West Wing. Bring your key. Malik's eyes lifted slowly. The key? He asked, keeping his voice steady. You mean Lena? A soft laugh crackled through the speaker. You learn fast, Riverway replied. Come alone if you want Samuel to stay breathing. Samuel stiffened. He's bluffing. Odom raised 2 fingers sharply. One squadman nodded and slipped out silently. Riverway continued, voice smooth, taunting. 5 minutes, Malik, or I light another memory. The call ended. For a moment no one spoke. Then Odom exhaled slowly. He just made a mistake. Malik turned to him. Which is? He confirmed Samuel is alive, Odom said, and that he's close. Lena's chest tightened. He mentioned Samuel deliberately. He wants to rush us. Odom nodded. Exactly. He wants panic. We give him precision. He turned to Malik. We proceed with the flush, but we flip the script. Odom tapped the blueprint. We send sound, not people, toward the west wing. Footsteps, voices, movement through the vents. Make him think you're coming with her. Malik's jaw tightened. And where do we really go? Odom's finger slid to a thin shaft line, leading toward the old generator chamber, then curved to a small, unlabeled rectangle. Here, Odom said. The secondary shaft exit. He won't expect anyone to enter behind him. Lena swallowed. He knows these walls better than anyone. Odom looked at her steadily. People who think they own a maze always forget one thing. What? She whispered. The exit, Odom replied. He turned to his men. Execute phase 1. Immediately the mansion came alive with controlled deception. 2 squad members stomped deliberately through the upper corridor, voices raised just enough to carry. Sir, the girl is moving. West wing now. At the same time, hidden speakers in the service shafts activated, replaying recorded footsteps and murmured commands, ghost sounds that traveled exactly the way Riverway expected. Lena's heart pounded as she listened. Malik leaned toward her. You stay with Odom. She nodded, fear sharp but contained. Samuel spoke quickly. If Riverway is near the generator chamber, he'll move when he hears the west wing noise. He always repositioned when pressure came. Odom's eyes flicked to Samuel. You've studied him. Samuel swallowed. I survived him. A low vibration rolled through the walls. Not an explosion. Movement. Odom lifted his radio. Team B, report. A voice crackled back. Movement detected in shaft C. Fast. He's moving toward the utility junction. Odom's lips curved grimly. He's taking the bait. Malik closed his eyes for half a second, then opened them with resolve. Let's end this. They moved, not running, but with purpose, down a narrow staff corridor concealed behind a false pantry wall. The air smelled of metal and old dust. Emergency lights glowed red along the ceiling, painting everything in warning. Lena's breathing was shallow. Stay close, Odom murmured. Ahead, a heavy steel door stood half open, the old generator chamber. Inside, shadows danced as flickering emergency lights struggled against darkness. Then a figure moved, tall, lean, masked. Riverway. He turned sharply, eyes widening behind the half-mask as he realized this wasn't the plan. He hissed, a sound of pure rage. Before he could retreat, Odom's voice boomed. Armed squad on the ground now! Riverway bolted. Smoke canisters hissed, flooding the shaft behind him with thick white fog. He coughed, stumbled. Samuel stepped out from a side passage, blocking his escape. He stood still, breathing hard. Stop running, Samuel, Riverway said hoarsely. Samuel's voice shook. You killed people. Riverway sneered. I built futures. Odom's men swarmed in seconds, pinning him to the ground, snapping restraints onto his wrists. Riverway struggled violently, then went still. Slowly, Malik stepped forward. The mask was torn away. Lena gasped. The face beneath was older than she expected. Scarred, familiar in a disturbing way, like someone you'd seen many times but never truly noticed. Mr. Adkins, she whispered. Malik stiffened. Adkins, his former estate manager, the man who trained his early security systems, the man who never left. Riverway smiled thinly through bloodied lips. You trusted me with your house, he rasped. I simply stayed. Malik's voice was ice. Clarissa. Riverway chuckled. Oh, ambitious girl. Easy to shape. She wanted status. I wanted access. Marriage would have given me both. Lena's stomach twisted. And me? Riverway's gaze slid to her. You, he said softly, were never meant to arrive. Your employment file appeared by mistake. One of my people approved it without knowing the name. Samuel sucked in a breath. When I heard Lena and die, I knew. Riverway continued. I knew the river had circled back. You used Clarissa, Malik said. I guided her, Riverway replied. She poisoned trust, planted recordings, isolated you. I was weeks away from owning everything through her. Odom tightened his grip. And the fires? Riverway's smile faded. The first was business, he said flatly. This one was memory. Silence fell. Samuel stepped closer. You promised protection. Riverway looked at him coldly. You were collateral. Odom hauled him upright. "You're done." As Riverway was dragged away, he twisted his head back toward Lena. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "Rivers don't dry. They disappear and return." Odom slammed him into the wall. "Save it for court." The squad escorted Riverway out. Sirens finally sounded softly in the distance as police units secured the perimeter. The mansion exhaled. Lena's knees buckled. Malik caught her just in time. "It's over," he whispered. But Lena looked past him to the smoke-stained walls, the hidden shafts, the scars of secrets. "No," she said softly. "It's revealed." And somewhere deep in the mansion, as the light steadied and silence returned, one truth settled heavily in the air. This house would never be the same again. This is the kind of raw, human storytelling that defines Lost Black. If you're feeling every twist, every turn, every truth finally spoken, hit subscribe. The journey isn't over. The police vans rolled out of the Anderson estate just before dawn. Blue and red lights flashed briefly against the tall white walls, then disappeared into the quiet city streets. For the first time in days, the mansion was no longer under siege. No alarms, no whispers through vents, no shadows moving where they shouldn't, yet the calm felt fragile, like glass stretched too thin. Lena sat in the living room, wrapped in a light blanket someone had placed around her shoulders. Her hands trembled slightly, not from cold, but from everything her mind was still trying to process. Riverway was gone, but the truth he left behind felt heavier than his presence ever had. Malik stood near the wide window, phone pressed to his ear, giving short, firm instructions. "Yes, ensure Boone is moved to federal custody immediately. Pause. No contact with the press yet. Not a word." Another pause. "And secure Clarissa's devices. Every single one." He ended the call and turned around slowly. Lena looked up at him. "Sir, what happens now?" she asked softly. Malik didn't answer immediately. He walked over and sat across from her, elbows resting on his knees. "Now," he said, "we untangle everything he touched." Samuel Okoro stood near the staircase, arms folded, eyes dark with guilt and exhaustion. "There's something I need to say," he said quietly. Both Malik and Lena turned to him. Samuel swallowed hard. "I didn't tell everything earlier, not because I wanted to hide it, but because I was afraid of what it would do to you, Lena." Her chest tightened. "Say it." Samuel nodded slowly. "When Clarissa first came into Malik's life, it wasn't accidental. Riverside introduced her to certain circles, high society events, business charity galas, places where men like Malik would notice her." Malik's jaw tightened. "She was coached," Samuel continued, "how to speak, how to act soft in public, but sharp in private. She was taught your habits, your weaknesses, even your childhood stories." Lena felt sick, "So she never loved him," she whispered. Samuel shook his head. "Clarissa loved power. Riverside promised her control through marriage." Malik exhaled slowly, pain flickering across his face. "And Lena?" Malik asked quietly. Samuel looked directly at her now. "You weren't supposed to come here," he said. "Riverside had a strict system. He controlled staff recruitment through old connections. But when the agency mistakenly approved your file, it slipped past him." Lena frowned. "Then why didn't he just fire me?" Samuel's voice dropped. "Because when he saw your name and die, he panicked." Lena stiffened. "He thought you were connected to the woman from the first fire, the cleaner who died. He didn't know whether you knew something or whether your presence meant the past was catching up." Malik leaned back slowly, absorbing this. "So he tried to watch her, intimidate her, scare her away." Samuel nodded, but instead she stopped Clarissa's hand. Lena's throat tightened. "That moment," Samuel said, "changed everything. It exposed Clarissa too early, forced Riverside to move faster than planned." Silence settled over the room. Mama May appeared quietly from the hallway, her face drawn but calm. "My children," she said gently, "evil always rushes when truth stands up." She moved closer to Lena and rested a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Lena, there is something else." Lena looked up. "Yes, Mama." Mama May took a breath. "Your mother, She came to this house once. Lena's eyes widened. What? Years ago, Mama May said. Before Malik fully took over the estate, she was part of a small group protesting illegal land seizures near the Riverway community. They came to submit petitions. Malik's brows knit. I remember that protest. Mama May nodded. Your mother never entered the mansion, but she stood at the gate crying, begging someone inside to listen. Lena's vision blurred with tears. She never told me, she whispered. Mama May squeezed her shoulder. She was protecting you. Malik stood abruptly. That means Riverside didn't just target you by chance. He's been circling your family for years. Samuel nodded grimly. And when you arrived here, history followed. Lena wrapped her arms around herself. So everything, the slap, Clarissa, the fire, it was all connected. Yes, Malik said firmly, but it ends here. A knock echoed softly from the front door. All heads turned. One of the police officers stepped inside. Mr. Anderson, Clarissa Benson has requested to speak with you. Malik's expression hardened. Here, he asked. Yes, sir. She claims she has information you'll want to hear. Lena's heart raced. Malik looked at her briefly, then back at the officer. Bring her in. Moments later, Clarissa walked into the living room. Gone was the polished fiancée. Her hair was pulled back carelessly. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Her expensive dress looked wrinkled, almost uncomfortable on her. When she saw Lena, she froze. Then her shoulders slumped. I didn't know, Clarissa said quietly. Not everything. Malik folded his arms. Start talking. Clarissa swallowed. Riverway told me he was an investor, a silent partner. He said marrying you would protect the company from hostile takeovers. And the abuse? Lena asked, her voice shaking but steady. Clarissa flinched. He said fear keeps people quiet, that staff were tools, not humans. Mama May hissed softly in disapproval. Clarissa looked down. I became someone I don't recognize. Malik's voice was cold. You chose that? Clarissa nodded slowly. I know. She lifted her head, eyes glistening. But there's something else. Riverway had a backup plan. Malik's eyes narrowed. What plan? Clarissa hesitated, then said, if the marriage failed, the fire was supposed to happen anyway. The room went still. Clarissa's voice cracked, this time with you inside. Lena gasped. Malik's fists clenched, and Lena. Clarissa looked at her, shame etched on her face. She was never meant to survive long enough to speak. Silence fell like a weight. The police officer stepped forward. That's enough. Clarissa was escorted away, sobbing quietly. Lena felt her legs weaken. Malik moved toward her instantly. It's over, he said again, more firmly now. But Lena shook her head slowly. No, she whispered. It's not over yet. Malik looked at her. Riverway said, rivers disappear and return, she continued. People like him don't stop, they wait. Samuel nodded. She's right. Malik straightened. Then we don't wait, he said. We expose everything, every fire, every deal, every shadow. Lena looked up at him, fear and strength mixing in her eyes. And me? She asked softly. Malik met her gaze. You, he said, will no longer be invisible. The morning sun crept through the windows, casting light over the battered but standing mansion. Outside, the gates remained open. For the first time, nothing hid behind them. Yet somewhere far beyond the estate, someone was watching, waiting. And the river was still flowing. By mid-morning, the Anderson mansion no longer felt like a home. It felt like a crime scene that had decided to keep breathing. Investigators moved quietly through hallways, photographing vents, hidden shafts, burnt panels, and sealed doors that had never been opened in decades. Each click of the camera sounded like a nail sealing the past shut. Lena watched from the far end of the corridor as two officers peeled away the wooden panel behind the bookshelf. The space behind it was deeper than anyone had imagined. A narrow passage stretched inward, lined with old cables, dusty pipes, and faded chalk markings on the wall. Arrows, numbers, dates. This wasn't built recently, one officer muttered. These markings are at least 10, maybe 15 years old. Malik stood beside Odom, the squad leader, his face hard. This house was designed to hide someone, Malik said quietly. Odom nodded, or something. They followed the passage slowly until it opened into a small, sealed room. Inside were 3 metal boxes. One was locked, the second was half open, the third was empty. Samuel stiffened the moment he saw the boxes. "That's Riverway's style," he said. "He always kept information separated. Redundancy." Odom pried open the second box. Inside were flash drives, old notebooks, burner phones, and laminated maps marked with red circles. One word appeared repeatedly on the pages: Riverway. Lena's heart pounded. "Why that name?" she asked. Samuel rubbed his face. It was the first land deal he ever profited from illegally. A Riverway community displaced overnight. Homes burnt, files erased. Malik turned sharply. "The protest." "Yes," Samuel said. "That was your mother's fight." Lena's breath caught. She stood against him, and he never forgot. One officer held up a flash drive. "Sir, this one is labeled Clarissa Phase 2. Malik's jaw tightened. "Plug it in." They moved back into the study. The screen flickered to life. A recorded video appeared. Clarissa sat on a leather chair, hair perfectly styled, face cold and composed. "If this is being watched," Clarissa said on screen, "it means Phase 1 failed." Lena felt chills. Clarissa continued. "Riverway insists we accelerate. The fire will distract authorities. Malik is predictable. He protects. If the maid speaks, we isolate her." Lena's hands trembled. Malik stared at the screen, unmoving. Clarissa's recorded voice went on. "I don't like how this is going. But Riverway says once the marriage is complete, everything will reset. The house, the company, even the past." The video cut off abruptly. Silence swallowed the room. Odom exhaled slowly. "That's conspiracy, arson, attempted murder, and corporate takeover." An officer stepped forward. "Sir, there's more." He handed Malik a printed photograph. Lena leaned forward and froze. It was her, standing at the mansion gate, taken weeks before she started work. Her chest tightened. "That's impossible. I hadn't applied yet." Samuel's voice dropped. Riverway had eyes everywhere. Another photograph followed. Lena's mother, younger, fierce, standing with other women near a riverbank, holding a protest sign. Lena's vision blurred. "She didn't lose by accident," Samuel said quietly. "She was silenced." Lena's knees buckled. Malik caught her immediately. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. Tears slid down Lena's face, not loud, not broken, but heavy. "So this house," she said softly, "was built on pain." "Yes," Malik replied, "and lies." A loud beep echoed from Odom's radio. "Control to Alpha," a voice crackled. "We've intercepted a call routed through an offshore relay. Voice match confirms Riverway." Malik straightened. "Where?" "Near the old water treatment facility, by the abandoned Riverway district." Odom's eyes sharpened. "He's returning to where it started." Lena lifted her head. "Because he thinks he's unfinished." Samuel nodded. "Riverway never lets go of origins. He believes places hold power." Malik turned to Odom. "Move." Within minutes, tactical vehicles rolled out again. This time, not to defend the mansion, but to end the story. The Riverway district was quiet. Too quiet. Broken buildings leaned like tired men. The river itself moved slowly, dark and unreadable. Riverway, Elias Boone, stood near the edge, phone pressed to his ear, watching the water. "You can stop circling," he said calmly. "I know you're here." Odom's men emerged from cover, weapons raised. "Hands where we can see them," Odom shouted. Riverway smiled faintly and raised his hands. "You know," he said, "this river taught me something." Malik stepped forward. "That people remember," Malik said coldly. Riverway turned. For the first time, his confidence cracked. "You should have stayed blind," Riverway muttered. Malik's voice was steady. "And you should have left her alone." Riverway laughed bitterly. She was the last loose thread. Lena stepped forward, surprising everyone. "You were afraid of the truth," she said. "That's why you chased it." Riverway's eyes flickered. "I was afraid of exposure," he corrected. "Truth is just noise if no one listens." Odom snapped cuffs onto him. "They'll listen now." As Riverway was led away, he glanced once more at the river. "This place made me," he said softly, "and it will bury me." Police sirens faded into the distance. The river kept flowing, unbothered. That night, Lena sat alone on the mansion steps. Malik joined her quietly. "They'll prosecute," he said, "everything." She nodded. "Justice doesn't bring back what was lost." "No," Malik agreed, "but it stops the bleeding." She looked at him then. Not as a maid, not as a victim, but as a woman who had stood between silence and truth. "What happens to me now?" she asked. Malik met her gaze. "That," he said gently, "is a question we answer together." Inside the mansion, the lights burned steady. No shadows moved behind the walls, no whispers crept through vents. But somewhere in the dark corridors of memory, something waited to be named. Courtroom was silent in a way that felt heavier than noise. Lena sat in the second row, hands folded tightly on her lap. Her light blue dress, carefully chosen to make her look smaller than she felt. Her eyes stayed fixed on the witness stand, where the truth, long buried, long poisoned, was finally being forced into the open. Riverway stood in the dock. For the first time since she had heard his voice whisper from the walls, he looked ordinary. No shadows, no vents, no power. Just a middle-aged man in a grey prison uniform, wrists cuffed, jaw tight. And that frightened Lena more than the monster in the walls ever had, because monsters with faces could be judged. The judge adjusted his glasses. "Call the next witness." The clerk announced Samuel Okoro. A murmur passed through the courtroom. Samuel stood slowly and walked forward, his shoulders squared, but his eyes heavy with the weight of memory. He took the oath, then sat. The prosecutor didn't waste time. "Mr. Okoro, how do you know the defendant known as Riverway?" Samuel swallowed. "I knew him before he became Riverway," he said, "back when he still used his real name, back when he pretended to be a developer helping river communities." Riverway's jaw twitched. Samuel continued, "He recruited young men like me, security trainees, electricians, messengers. He paid us to observe people, to note movements, to learn who talked too much." The courtroom went still. "And Clarissa?" the prosecutor asked. Samuel's eyes hardened. "She was never meant to marry for love," he said. "Clarissa was chosen because she was ambitious, insecure, and easy to steer. Riverway funded her lifestyle, introduced her to Malik's circle, and promised her power." Clarissa, seated among the accused, burst into tears. "It wasn't like that," she cried. "He manipulated me." The judge raised a hand. "You'll have your turn." Samuel went on. Riverway's plan was simple but patient. Clarissa would marry Malik. The marriage would give her access. Riverway would operate through shell companies and trusts signed in her name. "And the fires?" the prosecutor asked quietly. Samuel closed his eyes. They were distractions, always. Fires erase records. Fires create fear. Fires make people forget details. Lena's breath shook. The prosecutor nodded. No further questions. As Samuel stepped down, his eyes met Lena's briefly. There was apology there, and relief. Then the judge called the final witness, Lena Ndai. Her heart slammed. Malik turned to her, his eyes steady, grounding. "You don't have to," he began. "I do," she said softly. She stood. Every step toward the stand felt like crossing water she had been afraid of her entire life. She sat, raised her right hand, and swore the oath. The prosecutor's voice softened. "Lena, when did you first encounter the defendant's influence?" Took a breath. "Before I ever entered the mansion," she said. "Before I even knew his name." She described the phone calls, the whispers, the vents, the way her past kept finding her in places she thought were safe. Then she said the words that changed everything. "My mother worked for a foundation tied to Riverway's earliest land deals. When she learned what happened during the first fire, she tried to leave quietly. But Riverway never lets go of witnesses." The courtroom murmured. "She didn't tell me everything," Lena continued, voice steady now. "She was protecting me. She believed silence would keep me alive." Her eyes lifted to Riverway. She was wrong. Riverway laughed suddenly, sharp, hollow. "Silence built empires," he said. "Truth only destroys." The judge's gavel slammed. "Order!" Lena finished. "I came into that house by coincidence, but Riverway kept me there because he needed control. He thought fear would make me quiet." She paused. He was wrong. The judge leaned forward. "The court finds the defendant guilty on all counts." Gasps filled the room. Riverway did not react, not until the sentence was read. Life imprisonment, no parole, no deals, no rivers left to hide bodies in. As officers moved to escort him out, Riverway finally turned his head, his eyes locked onto Lena's. "You think this ends with me?" he said quietly. She stood. Her voice did not shake. "It ended the moment you stopped owning the truth." For the first time, Riverway looked afraid. Weeks later, the Anderson mansion felt different. The walls were opened, the shafts sealed, the hidden rooms destroyed. Light moved freely now. Lena stood in the garden watching workers dismantle the last false panel. Malik joined her. "It's done," he said. She nodded. "What about Clarissa?" "Convicted," Malik replied. "Reduced sentence for cooperation. She gave everything." Lena exhaled. "And Samuel?" "Witness protection," Malik said. "New city, new life." She smiled faintly. "Good." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Malik spoke. "I sold the mansion." She turned sharply. "You did?" "Yes," he said calmly. "Some places carry too much blood." She understood. "What will you do now?" she asked. He looked at her. "Rebuild, slowly, honestly." A pause. "And you?" Lena looked toward the open gate, the same gate she had once entered as a frightened maid. "I'm going back to school," she said. Malik smiled. "Of course you are." She met his gaze. "You once asked what happens to me next." "Yes," he said softly. She answered, "I stopped being afraid of rivers." The sun dipped low. The past stayed buried. And for the first time in a long time, the truth was free to breathe. This journey through darkness to light, from silence to truth, is what we live for at Lost Black. If this story moved you, subscribe. Our stories are about real life, real pain, and real courage. Lena looked at the small suitcase at her feet. Her own. She had enrolled in night classes, a community college, pre-law. "Yes," she said, "I'm sure." He nodded, a quiet understanding passing between them. Some bonds were forged in fire, and theirs was one. They weren't saying goodbye. They were stepping into the clear, unhaunted air of a future they would shape, not just survive. Together, they walked away from the shadow of the house, toward a road washed clean by morning light.